My sister won't help me, not even when I'm sick, so I stopped giving her money. But now the bank wants its money, and my sister is desperate. Well, here's the thing. I've been financially supporting my younger sister for years. Lately, some things have happened that made me start to question this. Let me start from the beginning, because now I need advice more than ever. I'm the older sister by about 8 years. She's 20, and I'm 28. We come from a fairly close family, and since I'm the oldest, I've always felt a sense of responsibility. Our parents did the best they could, but money was always tight. When I got a good job right after college, I was proud to be able to help my family financially. When I started working, my sister had just graduated from high school. I've been supporting her to some degree ever since. When she entered college, I paid for things our parents couldn't, like nice clothes, a laptop, makeup, and even financed her college trips. I didn't mind because I thought that's what older sisters did. I had lived that life of not having enough, and I know how terrible it feels when you see your friends wearing brand name clothes, carrying new phones, going on trips you can't join. You feel left out and miserable because you can't do the basics with your friends. Plus, I had the means to help her. Things were going well up until now. She would ask me for help from time to time, and I was always willing to step in. Whenever she messaged me with a, "Hey sis, I'm short on money. Can you lend me $50 for groceries?" I'd send her the money without a second thought. I felt good being in a position to help her, especially because I knew how hard it could be to balance schoolwork and finances. It wasn't just occasionally $50 here and there. In her second year of college, I helped pay for an entire semester when she lost her scholarship due to her grades dropping. She swore it was a one-time mistake and that she'd get back on track. And she did, which made me proud. There was one time when she called me, saying she was going on a trip with her friends. She had already booked the flight and hotel but didn't have enough spending money. She wanted to cancel, but I stepped in and gave her the money so she could go on vacation. I didn't want her to be the only one left out because of a lack of money. See, I have no issue spending on her. What's really been bothering me is that I never get anything in return from her. Of course, I didn't expect financial benefits from her, but I did expect her to support me in the same way I supported her. Unfortunately, that never happens. I started noticing this a while ago. About 4 months ago, my husband and I moved into a new apartment. We had both had long work days, and all I needed was a little help unpacking some boxes. I called my sister, thinking she'd be happy to come and lend a hand for a couple of hours, but she had plans. I don't remember the reason she gave, but it was something trivial, like some friends were coming over. Though she said she'd come help the next day, I told her not to bother. My expectations were already crushed. Then I thought maybe I was feeling too entitled to her help. She has a life too, and I can't expect her to drop everything at the last minute to help me. Then there was another time when I had the flu. I was bedridden for days and felt terrible. One of those days, after my husband had gone to work, I realized I had run out of medicine and was craving some hot soup. Her house is closer than my husband's office, so I asked if she could stop by and bring me some soup and medicine since I couldn't leave the house. She said she'd try to come by, but she never showed up. When I confronted her about it later, she said she got caught up with an assignment and forgot. That hurt because it was a serious situation, and I needed help. I'd never asked much of her, and the one time I really needed her, she let me down. She later apologized, saying she was really busy and couldn't attend to me. I let it go. I didn't make a big fuss, but it was the first time I really began to feel the imbalance. Here I was, constantly helping her through tough times, and when I asked for something as small as an hour of her time, she couldn't be bothered. I know it sounds easy to say that I can just cut everything off and be done with it, but it's not that simple. I love her very much. It's so complicated that it's hard to talk about with anyone. For example, when I got married, she was right there by my side. She helped with everything, from shopping to fixing things and organizing details. Not to mention, she was my maid of honor, and I bought her designer clothes for the reception. The point is, I help her out of empathy because I've been in situations where I couldn't do fun things because of a lack of money. However, I don't feel like she reciprocates my love. It's not that she's disrespectful or anything. She's extremely loving and attentive when she's with me. But when she's not, and I ask for help, I don't get that support from her. How can I explain it? It's like I could cross mountains for her, but I don't think she'd do the same for me. I talked about it with my husband, and he told me I can't expect the same level of love in return. Her birthday is coming up, and every year I've given her something. But this year, I don't want to give her anything. I feel hurt, so to speak, because I don't feel appreciated. I also have doubts because I don't want to ruin what I have with my sister. It's been a beautiful relationship so far. What should I do? Update 1. The moderator took a while to post my story, and I apologize if I sounded confused to many of you. The truth is, I was confused, which is why I posted here looking for advice. However, I've now moved past that confusion and decided to confront her directly instead of making assumptions. One day we were having lunch together, and as usual, I paid the bill because she still doesn't work. She's in her final year of college. As I mentioned before, I don't mind paying for her as long as she values and appreciates my care. On the way back, I decided to bring up the subject. I told her about my feelings, that I felt taken for granted, always helping her, but never receiving help in return. To her credit, she didn't get mad at me. Instead, she stayed quiet and apologized. She said she loved me and never intended to take advantage of me. She claimed she always had a genuine reason for rejecting my requests. She acknowledged that my feelings were valid. She promised she'd get better, and I believed her. I wanted to give her another chance to fix our relationship. For a while after our conversation, things seemed to improve a bit. I didn't give her any gift for her birthday, and she said she would have been happy just having me attend the celebration. She also said she now understood that since I'm married, I have other commitments, and that it was okay if she was no longer my main priority. She was quite mature in admitting this so gracefully. She didn't ask for money after that, and I thought maybe we had finally turned a corner. Then, almost 2 months later, she called me, saying her phone had fallen and broken. She couldn't afford a new one and asked if I could lend her money. I hesitated but eventually agreed because I knew she needed the phone for her schoolwork. I sent her the money, and a few days later, I saw on her status that she was showing off the latest iPhone, not an affordable model like I expected. I was shocked. The money I gave her only covered half the price of an iPhone. That meant she had paid the other half herself. If she had that much money, she could have bought any other decent phone instead of asking me for a loan. I confronted her and she shrugged, saying, "Well, if I'm going to buy a new phone, it might as well be a good one, right?" I asked her, "Where did you get the rest of the money?" And she said she had saved it from her part-time job. I responded, "You spent your savings on that phone while you struggle half the time to make ends meet?" She rolled her eyes and said, "You only live once." That was the moment I realized she wasn't just financially struggling, she was living beyond her means and expecting me to fund her lifestyle. It was no longer about need but convenience. Then, a few weeks later, she contacted me saying she wanted to buy a car and needed my help for the down payment. The idea terrified me. She wanted a car when she could barely support herself. Her university is in the city, well connected by public transport. If it had been in the outskirts, I would have understood. She wanted the car just because she thought it would make her look cool. I said, "Sorry, I can't help with that, it's too much." As her sister, I tried to impart some financial wisdom, explaining that it was an unnecessary possession. She got upset because she was really excited about getting a car. I suggested she wait until she got a full-time job, but she didn't want to wait. I told her, "I'm not getting involved in this," and she started insisting like a 4-year-old. She said, "I know you can give me the money, but you're just not doing it to stop me from getting a car." At first, it was casual, but then she kept insisting more, saying something that really hurt me. She accused me of neglecting her after I got married and claimed I didn't love her like before. I clarified that I still loved her, but I didn't want to keep making things easy for her. She promised it would be the last time she asked for a favor. I got mad at her persistence and firmly said no. She was really angry, but she didn't say anything and left. Usually, we stay in touch by sharing memes and messages, but after that night, our conversation stopped. I didn't contact her and let her cool off. Then, a week later, I messaged her saying I was planning a surprise birthday party for my husband and wanted her to handle some things. To my surprise, she replied that she was busy and couldn't attend the party. I'm not saying she can't turn down an invitation, she has her own life too, but she did it out of spite. The way she responded irritated me. She said no without giving any explanation, and it was so cold and obvious that she was still mad at me. I felt like she was acting as if I owed her the money. I confronted her about her rude response, and she called me selfish. It left me speechless. How could I be the selfish one? She said I was trying to impose my financial beliefs on her, and that I was deliberately creating austerity for her just because I had lived that life. I agree, I couldn't afford those things back in the day, which is why I allowed her to enjoy some of them. But it's outrageous to say I'm trying to make her suffer. I said, "If you want a car that badly, go and buy one. Who's stopping you? I only advised you not to do it now and to wait until you have a full-time job. Now it's up to you what you do." That was our last conversation. Then on my husband's birthday, I saw her Instagram post with a new car. She didn't show up at the party. I realized that our relationship had worsened, and it would be foolish to expect her to understand or appreciate me. Friends and family congratulated her on the car, but I didn't. Why would I? She didn't even have the courtesy to tell me. I found out through social media. Weeks have passed, and we're no longer in contact. I've made it clear I'm not going to let her take advantage of me anymore. Everything I did for her until now was out of love, but that's over. Update 2. Here's an update. As I mentioned earlier, I cut off all contact with my sister after she manipulated me into giving her money for a car, then went behind my back and bought it without telling me. I was living my life in peace, saving money and energy away from all the drama. My mom sometimes lamented our fight because our bond was special, and our parents were really proud of us. I mean, how often do you find such a strong sibling bond? But I guess everything comes to an end. The new development in the situation is that my sister contacted me 2 weeks ago. She's drowning in debt. She hasn't paid the car loan in over 4 months, and now the bank has repossessed it. The debt collector has threatened to auction off the car if she doesn't settle the debts within a week. Now she's crying because it's her first car and she doesn't want to lose it that way. I told her, "No, I can't help you." She replied, "I know you're mad because I didn't come to your husband's birthday. I know it was really stupid of me to do that. You know I love you. It's just that I was really hurt. Of all the people in the world, I thought you would understand me, but when you turned your back on me, I felt awful. I really wanted this car, so I went ahead despite your warnings. Please, 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 save me. You know I love you." She bombarded me with compliments and tried to emotionally manipulate me, saying our bond is divine and we shouldn't let our differences come between us. I accepted all the love and respect she claimed to have for me, but I reminded her that I also have certain obligations now. I can't give her everything every time she asks for it. I reminded her of all the times I had been there for her and how she had failed me every time I had needed her help. She begged, saying she never intentionally rejected me and that she really cared. I told her I had my own bills to pay and couldn't keep bailing her out. That's when she lost her cool. She accused me of being vindictive, of rejecting her just to get back at her for not helping me in the past. She said, "You're doing this just to get back at me, right? You want to prove your point that you were right and I was an idiot for buying this car. I can't believe you're enjoying my misery. How can you be so cruel and petty?" I stood my ground, but it hurt to hear her say those things. I wasn't trying to punish her. I was trying to teach her that she needed to take responsibility for her own life. She left my house with a bitter face. We're still not in contact. She called our parents and told them I abandoned her when she needed me most, labeling me as vindictive to anyone who would listen. Our family and relatives started getting involved, and there was a lot of gossip about it. My mom and aunt took her side, saying I was overreacting and that I should have helped her because that's what family does. My dad and grandparents, on the other hand, understood my position and said I was right to set boundaries. It wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about her never learning to be responsible for herself. If I kept bailing her out, she would never change. She begged my parents to help her save her car, as it had sentimental value for her, being her first car, and she wanted to keep it at all costs. Somehow, my mom managed to get the money and helped her. The problem is that helping her is useless. No one can pay off her entire loan for her, and given her lifestyle, it's only a matter of time before she accumulates more debt. All of my mom's savings, which she lent to my sister, will likely be lost. I know it's my mom's money and she understands the risks of lending it to my sister, but it hurts to see that money wasted. My parents are still working hard to save for their retirement, and instead of helping them, my sister is exploiting their kindness. Either way, I'm trying to stay out of all this drama. I have my own life to focus on. I think it was a good decision to distance myself from my sister, because considering her spending habits, she's going to create even bigger problems for herself in the long run. Update 3. I couldn't have been more right in predicting my sister's problems in my last post. Now she's in serious trouble. Well, more serious than before. A few days ago, she showed up at my door close to midnight. I was scared to see her at that hour, but I had to open the door because, God forbid, she could have been in danger. As soon as I opened the door, she hugged me and started crying, completely panicked. She kept apologizing for not listening to my advice and for being resentful toward me. She was shaking and had a fever. I calmed her down and asked her to tell me the details. She'd gotten herself into another mess. After Mom helped her catch up with the payments, she got a job and was able to pay her loan for a while. But eventually, something happened, and she fell behind on the payments again. This time, she used her credit card to cover the car payments for a few months, maxing out her credit card limit. And now she has no money to pay her credit card bills. The bank is after her to get out of debt, and now she's no longer worried about the car. She's in bigger trouble. If she doesn't pay off the credit card, they're threatening to take legal action, and she has no idea what to do. She begged me to step in and pay off the debt before it ruined her credit and her life. I asked her why she had come so late, and she told me the debt collector had been harassing her so persistently that she had been sleeping on a friend's couch for a while. But that option had also run out. She had even turned off her phone to avoid the constant, aggressive calls from the bank. I couldn't believe she had gotten herself into such serious trouble. Not only had she used the credit card to pay for the car loan, but she had also used it to buy things she couldn't afford, racking up thousands of dollars in debt, mostly for shopping, eating out, and other unnecessary expenses. Now, she didn't just need a little help, she was in over her head. It wasn't just a few $100s, it was thousands, and she needed it fast, or the bank would take legal action against her. I felt a knot in my stomach, not only because of the amount, but because it was clear she hadn't learned anything. She wasn't trying to fix her spending habits or get her life in order. She simply expected me to clean up her mess, as always. I was torn. On one hand, this was serious, and I didn't want her life to fall apart. But on the other hand, I knew that if I stepped in again, nothing would change. She would never learn, and this cycle would continue forever. I told her I couldn't help her. Before I could even finish the sentence, she yelled at me, called me cruel and selfish, and accused me of ruining her life out of revenge. Her behavior left me speechless. I felt like she was a completely different person. I no longer recognized her. My husband stepped in and said she was in serious trouble and that we should help her before things got worse. He even offered to lend her the money to pay off the credit card and suggested that she sell her car to help cover the debt. But here's the most incredible part. She refused the loan. She wanted the money without any obligation to pay it back, and she wasn't willing to sell her car either. That was the final straw. I told her, "You're no longer my problem, and I don't care what happens to you now." She stormed out of the house in a fury. Afterward, she went to our parents for help. But this time, I had already informed them of what had happened, including how she had yelled at me and my husband. My parents also refused her, telling her that she needed to face the consequences of her actions. It was a difficult moment for everyone, but they understood that continuing to make things easier for her wouldn't do her any good in the long run. Since then, I've cut off all communication with her. I've even muted her updates on social media so I won't come across any news about her. I need to protect my peace, and at this point, it's clear that she has to learn to take responsibility for her own life, no matter how painful it is for her or for me. Update 4. As many of you have been asking about my sister, I feel almost obligated to provide one more update. I didn't expect to have to write this, but there have been more developments in the situation, even though I'm still not speaking to her directly. The truth is, after everything that happened, I'm keeping my distance to protect my mental peace. However, my mom is still in contact with her, as despite everything that has happened, she still has a soft spot for her. It's normal. She's her daughter, and I understand that she always wants the best for us, even though sometimes I feel my mom lets her desire to fix my sister's problems carry her away, without realizing she's perpetuating the cycle. However, the big difference now is that my mom can no longer help her financially. She literally has no more money to lend her because she has already exhausted everything she had trying to save her in the past. Going straight to the update about my sister, the last thing I've heard is that the bank has finally gone ahead with the lawsuit against her. She owes more than $15,000 in credit card debt, a sum she accumulated due to her poor financial management, including the time she used her credit card to pay the car loan and all the unnecessary things she bought. It's very frustrating to think about all this because it's exactly what I feared would happen when she decided to buy the car without listening to my warnings. Now, her debts have reached a level where there's no easy way out. At this point, I know she had to sell her car, but it hasn't been as effective a solution as she expected. Although she managed to get some money from selling it, it wasn't enough. Apparently, since she also owed money on the loan she had taken out to buy the car, she had to use most of the money from the sale to pay off that loan. After that, she had very little left to sort out her other debts. Of course, that's not all. My sister's financial troubles haven't ended there. Another major blow has been that she's had to drop out of university. She simply can't afford the classes anymore, and honestly, she doesn't have the time or energy to worry about her studies now. She had only a few courses left to complete her degree and graduate, but due to her poor financial decisions, she's left everything unfinished. This is perhaps one of the saddest aspects of the whole situation. She had a promising future and was so close to finishing her studies and working in her field, but instead, she has dug her own grave, filling it with debt. It's devastating, especially for my mother, who is deeply affected by all of this. As a mother, she wants the best for us, and seeing her in this situation without being able to help must be very hard for her. My mother feels powerless, and it's natural that she wants to help her in any way she can, but I've told her many times that giving her more money will only make things worse. I am a clear example of how trying to save her only pushed her deeper into the abyss. My sister will never learn how to get out of this situation if there's always someone willing to rescue her. She has to face the consequences of her decisions and find a way to move forward on her own, or this will never end. I understand that some of you have pointed out that, in a way, I am responsible for the situation for having enabled her behavior in the past, and I won't deny it. For years, I helped her unconditionally, without thinking about the long-term repercussions. I thought I was doing the right thing by supporting her, but now I see that I was only protecting her from the lessons life was trying to teach her. That's why I've decided not to get involved anymore. I'm not going to step in, either financially or emotionally, because this is a lesson she needs to learn on her own. What I do know is that she has finally gotten a full-time job. Since she's no longer attending university, at least she has some work stability. Although I know this job doesn't pay as well as it would have once she had graduated and been able to work in the field she studied, at least it's a step in the right direction. She's living with a friend, which will surely help her save money and hopefully start paying off her debts. But, of course, all of this depends on whether she finally becomes responsible with her money, and I have serious doubts about that. Although I want to believe she has learned something from this experience, I still feel she hasn't changed enough to avoid falling into the same mistakes. Update 5. My sister has managed to reach an agreement with the bank to pay off the money she owes. I don't have all the details, but it seems they've reached some kind of arrangement that will allow her to settle her debt in more manageable installments. At least she's no longer under the immediate threat of a lawsuit or more serious legal action. Still, the situation remains complicated for her. She tried asking my father for money to help her, but he flat out refused. As I mentioned before, my mother, unfortunately, no longer has any money, neither for my sister nor for herself. I suppose in the end, it will be the bank that teaches her the lesson I couldn't, that money cannot be wasted like that, and that every debt has consequences. I don't know how long it will take her to get out of this, but at least she has taken a first step toward a solution, even if it was forced by financial pressure. What I hope most is that all of this serves as a lesson for my sister to finally learn how to manage her finances and be more responsible with money. I would love to be able to make a new update in a few years and tell you all that my sister is in a good place, that she has managed to stabilize her life, and that she has learned from her mistakes. That, of course, is something only time will tell. Update 6. 2 years have passed, and I still get some comments asking if my sister has learned her lesson. My answer is, partially. The latest I've heard from her is that she's escaped everything, her responsibilities and her studies, and is now living in a hippie commune. So, in a way, she has changed her lifestyle, adopting one much more frugal than the one she had before. I'm not sure if she's managed to pay off all her debts, but it seems she's found a way to live with fewer material worries. I don't know if this is a happy or sad ending for my sister. On one hand, it's sad that she dropped out of school and had to flee from her problems instead of facing them. On the other hand, maybe she's found a way of life that gives her peace, even if it's very different from what anyone would have imagined for her.